Yeah, we're back in it.
Back on the hardwood.
You know, well, we're here at the Engle studio just doing it like we always do.
They're here in Tucson for all your recording needs. You'll hear that later.
Yeah, you'll hear that at the end. Don't worry. Come on now,
That's
everybody.
right.
We are back at the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chris Quinn, with my co-host, Dominic DiTolla. And you know what? We're just back on the hardwood, like my man said, talking basketball, talking somebody that could have played football.
Talking Hall of Fame basketball. Could have played football in a different era. I bet you we would have, too.
I wanted to bring that up, too. We're talking Allen Iverson.
Yep, Allen Iverson, AI, the answer, Bubba Chuck, as we'll get into later. But
bit of a troubled man. But
troubled man growing up, later life, too, and still one of the best point guards of his era.
Oh, yeah.
Arguably one of the best of all time.
I would say the best of his era, but maybe not the best, and it reflects so much on the point guard, maybe not the best basketball player. You know,
not the best, despite stats,
team
distributor.
Yeah.
But then again, when you look at some of the teams that he played on, who the fuck was he supposed to throw the ball to? The popcorn guy? The elderly woman? The security guard? Oh, man.
Dikembe was just there to block shots. He was not there
Dikembe's
to put it
near
in.
the end of his career. He's just going to, not today.
Not today. All right. We're getting into it.
All right. Allen Iverson, born June 7th, 1975 in Hampton, Virginia, to a 15-year-old mom, Ann, and whose dad basically immediately left the family.
Yes.
Which, not a good way to grow up. And when you're in Hampton, Virginia, and you're in the Hampton Roads area and Newport News, lots of famous athletes are from there, but lots of those famous athletes grow up in poverty.
He said he grew up very poor, but it was very normal for him because that's just the way he grew up. If that makes any sense, he didn't look around like it was a horrible thing. He felt like he still had all the love that his mom,
Exactly, and it's the
him.
only life he knows. So, you're in that type of situation. But excelled at sports at a very early age.
Yep.
Like basically everyone we talk about. But really, really started showing things on the basketball court and on the football field.
Well, his first love was football. I want to say this.
Yeah.
And I guess people saw how athletic he was, and there were basketball coaches asking his mother about him, and his mom actually forced him to play basketball organized for the first time because he was so obsessed with football. He felt like that was his path.
And if he had played today, as we'll get into, he likely could have made an NFL dream come true for himself.
Back then, no way.
There was no chance for him, unfortunately, or the path that he would have had to have taken would have been utterly insane. As
an NFL quarterback, I just don't think he would have made it.
Not in that era, probably not, which is really unfortunate because probably now he would have.
Well, fortunate for any 76er fan. How about that? Come on now.
There you go. But his mom was able to get him out of the projects and send him to Bethel High School, where he starred in football and in basketball. Was a very versatile player in football. Not only was he a running back, kick returner, defensive back, he was a really good quarterback.
Yep.
And it's interesting, and this is kind of what we were alluding to before, he is not a very large person.
No, they say they list him at 6 foot later on in life. I don't think he's ever been 6 foot. So I think at this time
he's probably the same height as I am.
He's probably 5'8". I'm just saying in his freshman, sophomore year, he is small, but they were saying
he's probably 5'10", 5'11" now.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's what I think. Even though because NBA notoriously lists at a higher height. But
he's skinny. He's 160, 170 pounds.
He's the smallest, and we'll get to it later. He's the smallest to win a ton of...
Could you envision me playing in the NBA or the NFL? Absolutely. Maybe as a kicker, but, none of that nonsense. But he was a terrific football player. His junior year, he won the state titles in both football and basketball.
Yep.
Which is pretty incredible. He's Charlie Ward, though, playing football, essentially. And not a lot of offers, despite excelling in both sports. His team in basketball won the national championship, And everything was coming up Millhouse. Everything was coming up Allen Iverson's way, emerging from poverty, all these opportunities to play college basketball. And then Valentine's Day, 1993, something happens.
Well, we get into, and I looked back at this incident a lot because the racism that came from this was pretty ridiculous. And this is
intense.
It was Virginia in 93, and you might think I said 53, but no, this is Virginia in 1993. And they get into, so he's at a bowling alley, and this is something that I think people don't really understand about this story is he is readily identifiable as Allen Iverson already.
Everybody knows who the fuck he is.
And
like, he's a local hero.
There was essentially two groups of people there, white people and black people, and the white people were saying that the black people were getting too loud. This is like a fucking 80s joke.
Is this like a movie theater?
Yeah,
what is
exactly.
this? No, that's terrible.
That was the 80s joke that I was going for. It was horrible. But it just kept escalating and escalating, and essentially a brawl broke out.
A huge brawl. Like, I mean, I've seen videotapes of this shit.
That's what I wanted to say.
There's a fight. This is like a fucking melee.
Yeah, a melee. And there's videotape of it, and the only people to get arrested in this is Allen Iverson and his friends, because they were the only ones that really could be identified.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, everybody getting away with all their other stuff. It's like, oh, white privilege must be nice.
If you look at the video, and this is what is so ridiculous, was if you look at the video, as soon as shit kind of goes haywire, you can see Allen Iverson and his crew essentially just leaving.
Yeah, and like a select few just were like, well, I'm not involved in this shit. Like,
exactly.
You're on your own, assholes.
But people could name they name names.
Yeah.
And so he gets,
fucking rats.
This is how racist it is. They get charged with maiming, which was a law that was brought in
for lynching.
To prevent white people from lynching black people. This is how ridiculous this court case was. They also waited 8 months so they could try him as an adult. It was fucking...
They were going to send him to like big boy felony time.
They were trying to give him 20 years.
Yeah.
I think they had 4 counts of 5 years that he was actually guilty on, but they stacked it as opposed to...
Which is...
Because they gave him 5 years.
You gotta love our criminal justice system and how fucking ridiculous.
Brutal, man.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So him and all of his friends got 5 years, and then I think it was 4 or 5 months into his sentence.
Yeah,
it got through into appeals court and got overturned.
Yeah, it got overturned. Luckily for him, he spent it at because he couldn't go to prison. He was 17. The Newport News City Farm. Because they were going to try him as an adult. He'd stay there until he was 18 and then do his time. But luckily for him, he gets out and gets to spend this senior year of high school. I mean, obviously he can't go back to where he was, but he goes to Milburn High and finish there.
Well, something I thought was interesting because he had lawyers coming in like every day saying, today we're going to get you out, or tomorrow we're going to get you out. And then he had a friend come in and say, yo, man, you're not getting out of here. And he was like, finally like, oh, like this is going to be for a while. And it really ruined what could have been like the best senior, obviously the best athlete in Virginia. It ruined his senior year.
Yeah. And he had talked about his time while he was at the City Farm. Basically, like, it taught me not to be weak because you never knew what was going to happen. Like, it was just, there was no time to feel sorry for yourself or like be caught off guard by anybody looking to do you harm or
exactly
that. He does get very lucky. John Thompson at Georgetown, even though he has his not even criminal, because I mean they overturned the case, but his past might be radioactive to some programs, but John Thompson at Georgetown takes a chance on him.
Well, this is what I thought was so interesting is John Thompson said, we didn't scout Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson scouted us. His mom contacted John Thompson and talked to him multiple times and said, please just come meet my son, have this conversation with him because nobody's giving him a chance. John Thompson, the only black coach at that time.
Yeah. Nolan Richardson, and there's not a lot else. Tubby Smith, maybe? I don't know.
No, yeah. I think that's the 3.
Yeah.
So, like, and that's what he said was like, you know, he got screwed over. And we're just trying to get him back in. And John Thompson said after meeting him the first time, he was like, yeah, no, this kid is ready to.
I didn't see him use a chair to break a woman's face on that film. He just kind of, ooh, bye.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you're right, though. Luckily, he gets to go to Georgetown.
And Georgetown, obviously still a very competitive program at this point. Comes in 94-95. Big East Rookie of the Year. Takes him to the Sweet 16. Over 20 points a game, almost 5 assists, 3 steals, over 3 rebounds.
Big East Defensive Player of the Year, which I feel like...
As a freshman, that's pretty good in a league known specifically for defense.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing that...
He was such a good defensive
sometimes
player.
Gets lost with him unless you remember watching him play. He was one of the best point guards.
He was a fucking thief at point guard.
Oh my God. He was so good. He was so fast.
So quick. Just so quick. And that devastating crossover.
Oh, man.
95-96, also very good. They win the Big East title.
Yeah, which has to be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, the Big East title meant so much. It was,
Yeah, you get everything involved with that. 25 points a game, 4.7 assists, 3.4 steals, 3.8 rebounds. They go all the way to the Elite Eight, but lose to UMass. But he's a first-team All-American. Again, Defensive Player of the Year, which is just fantastic.
Back to back.
And now there's talk about him not finishing at Georgetown.
Well, and I believe, and I want to check with you, I believe his sister becomes sick. Is that right?
I think something like,
his sister becomes sick, and he's the first person to ever leave early under John Thompson to go to the NBA.
But John Thompson wanted him to leave early. He was like, if you're going to do this, do it now.
That's the thing well, this is what the quote from John Thompson said. He goes, basketball-wise, I have no doubt that he could play in the NBA. I just feel like he might need more mental game. And he was so correct with that.
We can see it, as we'll later go into.
Because basketball-wise, he was 100% ready. And we see in the first few years, and to be honest, his whole career, he kind of goes against authority.
Yeah. And, well, I'm sure his little... issue with our criminal justice system played into that, and I can't blame him at all. Yeah. I mean, you can blame him for other things, but the uneasiness and lack of trust, I can completely understand.
I feel like he would have worked way better in today's NBA, where the players have a lot more clout.
Yeah, right. No, he was just brash. I mean, he was someone they dropped off from a different planet they had never seen before, and 96 going into the draft. This is arguably one of the greatest NBA drafts.
I wanted to ask.
I wanted taken place.
Yeah, because I don't think there was missed drafts. Marcus Camby was coming out of college.
He had a good NBA career.
Nobody
wasn't
could doubt.
Yeah.
But there were so many Hall of Famers.
Steve Nash, Sharif Abdul-Rahim was also really good. Fucking
those
what's
Celtics,
his name?
Ray Allen. Don't bring him up.
Ray Allen. Who's that guy?
Antonio don't bring him up.
Who's that guy was a really good helicopter pilot?
Don't bring him up. But that's what's crazy is. So let me say this too about the shape of the NBA. If Allen Iverson had got in trouble, he might have went straight to the NBA if this was 96, but because it was 94, he still went to Georgetown. I'm just saying there's all these pieces. So Kobe Bryant comes out 12th or 13th. And
there's the helicopter pilot out now.
There's so many. This draft, you're right, might be the best, but it's also might be the most you know how players are just influential throughout?
Oh, yeah, no, totally.
This one
100%.
might. Yeah.
And you know what? It could have been even better. You know why? Everyone, up until he said he was going back to school, Tim Duncan probably would have been the first pick of that draft.
Oh,
he was the
definitely.
first pick the next year.
Yeah.
So, David Robinson, good for you. Listen to that episode.
Yep.
But Iverson's the first pick. I mean, because who wouldn't want a scoring machine at point guard and somebody who is the best backcourt defender that you have?
Yeah, why wouldn't you want a slightly less accomplished defender than Gary Payton, but a better offense? He was such a great point guard right away.
Yeah, there's that one game where he fucking crosses over Jordan and he's just dropping 40, 50 plus in his rookie season.
The
team around him is emerging from the post-Barkley era is just complete dog shit. But Allen Iverson, it's like, you want a cornerstone? There you go.
Well, this is what attracts a good coach. And that's the thing about teams that consistently are bad is it's hard for them to attract a guy that can come in and really rebuild. And that's what Allen Iverson did in this first season. I think they had like 22 wins.
Yeah.
They were awful.
But he won Rookie of the Year,
Yep.
23.5 points a game, 7.5 assists, 2 steals. Granted, you win 22 games, but then the next season, they start picking up some more pieces like Theo Ratliff, Aaron McKee, Eric Snow, and they get the coach that you had mentioned, Larry Brown, an all-time great one.
The biggest things I think in his life was Eric Snow coming in that early and Larry Brown coming in, because once him and Larry Brown mesh, that's probably his best basketball.
This is his greatest era of basketball right now, and you're right.
Well, Larry Brown came in and had, I think, one of the funniest quotes about him. He just goes, "I thought he was one of the best athletes I had ever seen. I just don't think he can play basketball."
Oh my God.
So literally what he was saying was just he doesn't have what I want as a basketball player. And this is his first season coming in.
But he's so good
But he's so good.
He improved this season. 27 points a game, 6.2 assists, 2.2 steals. Granted, they improved again. They have won 31 games in a really tough Eastern Conference. And then in the lockout year, the following season, he's even better.
Well, that's what he said was he's starting to understand what it is to be a team basketball player. This isn't college. You can't drive it yourself. This needs to be, and this is the misconception of what we were saying earlier of him taking too many shots. Larry Brown was like, no, I want him to take more shots. That's not what we're talking about here.
Well, who the hell else is going to shoot it?
That's exactly.
All your offense runs through this guy, and he would drive the paint all the time at 170 pounds in a league where the center position has not been phased out.
And he wouldn't get the fouls.
Yeah, he wouldn't get the fouls because the refs fucking hated him. But he was a tough son of a bitch. I think I had read 8 times in his career he led the league in minutes per game.
Yep.
That's the smallest damn guy out on the basketball court.
He was the smallest guy to ever be drafted number 1, which I thought was great. There's this great little back and forth with him and Kobe where they're playing and Kobe goes, "My cousin bet me that you were going to hit the floor 4 times tonight." And he goes, "What?" And he was just because he constantly was getting on the floor, either for loose balls or getting knocked from going into this.
You can say a lot about Allen Iverson. Don't question his toughness or his hustle.
No,
When he wanted it, when he turned it on, he turned it on.
Yep.
But 98-99, it's the lockouts. But he wins a scoring title. He wins the first of scoring titles, 28.8 points a game. They finished 28-22, which is good enough to make the playoffs for the first time.
Yeah.
They upset the Magic in 4 games, but then they lose to the number 2 seed Pacers in 6. But in the playoffs, he had 28.5 points a game.
He really turned it up, and people could see that.
Yeah. The following offseason, he signs a 6-year, $70 million extension, which obviously, through this whole process, you're like, okay, well, he's our best player.
Yep.
The team really responds around him. They go 49-33, average over 26 points a game, almost 5 assists. But
this is his first year as an All-Star, too, right?
First All-Star season. He has 11 in a row.
11 in a row, yeah.
Seasons in a row.
But again, they run into Cheryl Miller's brother.
Yeah, they beat the Hornets in the first round, but they can't get out of that Eastern Conference semifinals.
I didn't know Cheryl Miller's brother played basketball.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But this is that Pacers team that was so good. And he even said it. He was like, that was our team that kept knocking us out.
Well, the Pacers made the finals that year.
Yep.
So, if you're going to lose to anybody, at least, Eastern Conference champions. Yeah. But 2000, 2001, this is probably their best season when they had Iverson.
All right, now I got to bring up the offseason.
Okay.
So
go into it.
The offseason here, he is almost traded to the Pistons.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's get into that. Go, man.
So he and Larry Brown says that he's done with him.
Yeah.
Because his big thing is he won't strength train, which when you look back on it, you're like, well, he might need some of that.
He probably could have used some.
So that's what Larry Brown was saying. Like, he needs to follow this guide that we're putting out. And there were all these reports that, like, when he was doing this thing for Reebok, he was shooting a commercial. Everybody's out there shooting this commercial. It's like 10 o'clock at night. They still need like an hour and a half left, and he just ends up leaving. No. So like shit like that, where like his commitment isn't 100%.
He just wants to play basketball and not do the other stuff.
And not do the other stuff. Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
He will work hard to play basketball,
but not the little things that he doesn't see contributes to basketball. So he's literally on the deal struck with the Pistons.
Yeah, they were ready to send him to Detroit, which is crazy to even think.
In this era, because another player that goes undrafted in that was Ben Wallace, who's a Piston at this time, and like that Piston team would have been
so much different,
so still hard nosed, but such a different makeup. It would have been fucking crazy.
Ben Wallace was your front court crusher, though. I mean, without him, they don't have the success that they did.
No, that's why if Allen Iverson went there, it would have been still a great Pistons team.
Yeah, but they don't have Chauncey Billups.
I know, but that's the different. That's the different
fucking spider web. But it doesn't happen.
So Matt Geiger declines his $5 million kicker, and the 76ers end up having to hold on to him.
Yeah,
and he, to his credit, because he didn't realize how close he was to being traded, said that he was going to essentially redouble his efforts and really take Larry Brown's like his tutelage as to what he really should have done.
Well, there's only one guy who's ever won an NBA Finals and an NCAA championship, and it is Larry Brown.
And this, to Larry's credit, this is his best season and the 76ers' best season with him.
Yeah, they go 56-26. Number one seed at the time.
They started
10-0.
It's so crazy because literally they're coming off like a month off of him possibly being a Piston, and then they're like, nah, this is the team. They start 10-0. They go 56-26.
He wins the scoring title, 31.1 points a game. He wins the steals title, 2.5 points a game, and he wins the MVP. I mean,
also All-Star MVP. It was quite the season. You know,
this season they roll into the playoffs. They beat the Pacers. Then they have a thrilling 7-game series against Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady and the Raptors.
Yep.
And then they play the Bucks.
A hard-nosed Buck.
The hard-nosed Bucks with Ray Allen still there. This is probably their last good team before now.
And he actually met up. We didn't bring it up, but he met up Ray Allen in UConn in college.
Oh, they were in college at the same time. Yeah. I think they played together on one of those international teams when they were in college, like the non-dream teams.
Yep.
The one where they're all about amateurism still.
Which is fine.
Which is cool. But they end up winning the series in 7 games and make the finals for the first time in like 20 years.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for them, this is when
they run into this juggernaut of a Lakers team.
I've always wondered, like, if the Lakers or Spurs didn't exist, how many titles would those teams have won during this era?
It's interesting.
Like, that's just a freaky what if. That's like almost MJ Bull's level of success if you look back.
This Lakers team had 1 loss in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it was to the 76ers. And this was the other thing that people were saying was like Allen Iverson, for this 5 games in this series,
he did everything he fucking could have.
Had an amazing series, but there was no stopping Shaq and there was no stopping Kobe.
No stopping Kobe.
And Rick Fox has the greatest smile.
Oh, he does. Jesus. But they won game 1, 107-101.
Yep.
And he had an incredible game, dropping 48 points, basically dragging his balls as he stepped over Tyrone Lue. And then in the next 4 games, the wheels come off.
Well, that's quite a classic thing, and that's what people were wondering was like, are the Lakers that good? Because they were steamrolling everybody.
Yeah, they were the defending champions.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
And then they were like, yes, we are that good.
And Iverson in the next 4 games drops 26 or 25, 35, 35, and 37. So it's not like it's not his fault.
No.
It's like Good Will Hunting. It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. Yeah, and I'm sure there was a lot of crying after that for everybody. But this is about the time where he started wearing the basketball sleeve we see everybody wearing today.
Yeah,
a bit of a trendsetter because I've had elbow issues myself, and they'll give you those sleeves if you have like bursitis or like tennis elbow and shit. And everyone took it as like a fashion statement. Well, like Kobe started wearing it because of this.
Yeah, he felt like it just kind of kept the motion. He didn't want to mess it up at that point with his shooting.
Placebo effect now on everybody, it seems like. But defending Eastern Conference champions, you're thinking, the sky's the limit from here. And, well, I don't know if that necessarily happens.
2001, 2002, he gets injured a lot. I feel like there's like little injuries and there's injuries on the team.
But it's just the wear and tear that this guy's body's taken for how hard that he plays.
Yeah.
He played in only 60 games, but still won the scoring title.
Yep.
31.4 points a game. Led the league in steals. Again, this is the second of 3 straight years where he does that. 2.8 and then 5.5 assists. But not a lot of playoff success, and a very famous incident happens.
Well, I want to go back because a lot of people don't know this. There was this incident with this doctor earlier in the season, and he ends up having this press conference, and he's like, look, man, I'm here talking about malpractice. Talking about
medical malpractice.
And they're like, not no game. Not no surgery. Talking about All right. So anyways, I want to point a little bit about this absolutely ridiculous, famous.
It was blown way out of proportion in retrospect.
And if you get the real story, it's kind of shitty.
The real story's horrible.
But he has rolled with it. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So he understands that it's funny. But the real story is his childhood friend died or was murdered.
Yeah, he was just recently murdered.
A couple of days or a week before. There's all these trade rumors popping up again because he was almost traded the year before.
And they lost
2 years
Celtics
before, excuse
in the
me.
first round of the playoffs.
Exactly. And so he comes in, and the first question is, we heard that you're missing a lot of practices.
Oh, no.
And his response is, we're talking about practice? not no game. And his response was pretty accurate, but it was fucking hilarious.
Well, he's right.
Yes.
Because the reason he's saying that isn't because he's lazy or being a dick. It's like, oh, they just recently buried my best friend.
Yes.
We're
not talking about these games that we lost. We're talking about missing a practice.
Exactly. In the grand scheme of things, who gives a shit? Address that in the off season. Don't even worry about it. But I can see him reacting that way. Because that's the last thing you want to fucking talk about.
Yep.
And it's the soundbite of the fucking decade as far as sports is concerned.
100%. And he even said that future teammates would give him shit about it. And he was like, it's funny, man. It seriously is. But the actual story's shitty. And it's just, you could tell at this point, the love of him and the 76ers is starting to fade.
Yeah, because, the fun days are almost over as we look at kind of the rest of his career in terms of the overall team success.
Well, they start breaking this team down. So Mutombo goes,
Snow McKee, goes, all the guys that he was chill with and teammates with. It's all being reconstructed around him.
Larry Brown
is gone. I think he's gone
2003.
After the next season. Yeah, because 02-03, they end up beating the Hornets in the playoffs. But they lose to the Pistons.
Yep.
They kind of can't really get out of the second round while Iverson is there. And this is the first season of Detroit's ascent.
Yep.
I think they made the conference finals that year before they acquired Larry Brown. But 48 wins, 27.6 points a game, and leads the league in steals again. And there's no more you can ask of this guy, especially as all the pieces are being, dismantled around him. 03-04. After Larry Brown's gone, he did say that Larry Brown was the best coach in the world later in his career.
Yep.
Which, time heals all wounds, and you can identify if someone's really good. So they fire their coach, their new coach, after only 52 games.
Yeah.
Randy Ayers. And Iverson starts having issues with the new guy, Chris Ford, and misses 34 games. And so the season's a wash. They miss the playoffs. They're fucking terrible.
And they bring in, or they don't bring in, but they draft Andre Iguodala in this offseason.
Yeah, that's right. After the 04 season, yeah.
And then I think in the midseason they bring in Chris Webber. So they actually bring in
405. They're decent. I mean, they make the playoffs. He gets another scoring title, over 30 points a game.
So they actually then that's what's so weird is like they dismantle this team, but then they're like, maybe we'll give another shot at it with Iverson, and it's like, all right.
Well, and he had almost 8 assists, which was a career high for him that season, and he scored a career high 60 points on February 12th, 2005 against the Magic. They sneak into the playoffs and almost upset the Pistons in the first round.
Yeah.
They take them all the way to the brink, but end up losing. And they fire their coach again, though, Jim O'Brien, for no apparent goddamn reason.
Well, they said that there was slight... I mean, like, he didn't get along with the top management, which always is death for a new coach.
Exactly.
So, and is this where they end up trading him in this offseason? 2006, 2007?
Yeah, because that's after 05, 06. So, yeah. 06, 07, he only lasts 15 games.
Even
though he's averaging over 31 a game, he's traded to the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
And that is a very interesting turn in his career.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people thought it was going to be this, and that's the thing was I think he was second that year in scoring. So his career,
and he played awesome in Denver. I mean, he had over almost 25 points a game for them.
But they just couldn't put it together, and that's the slight on his career is that he can't finish it.
Well, and he was with a guy they thought could finish it together, but who hasn't finished it yet, and Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
And the Denver gave up their very good and very popular point guard, Andre Miller, just to get him. And it just never panned out. Like, they're a good team. They're making the playoffs, but they're losing in the first round every time. They're barely winning a game in both series. Yeah. 07, 08, still a great year. 26.4 points a game, 7.1 assists, 2 steals. And then 08, 09, another trade happens.
Yep.
He goes to the place where they originally thought of trading him.
Well, Larry Brown's there.
Yeah.
So he goes to the Pistons, and this is where, I hate to say it, but he does shit where you're just like, oh, you really need to check your ego if you wanted to play further in the NBA.
Yeah.
And
this was the trade that brought Chauncey Billups back to Denver.
Yeah. There was this talk that they told him you'll never have to come off of the bench. You're our starter. And then he gets injured a couple of times, and they are asking him to come off of the bench, and he pretty much tells them to fuck off. And there's this interview where he's like, you don't ask I think he was 10-time All-Star at the time, the 10-time All-Star to come off the bench. You don't ask a 3-time leading scorer, and he lists all this shit.
You know who came off the bench? Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah, hey, there you go. But he just like lists all this stuff, and you're just like, yeah, you're not that guy anymore. You need to check and realize who you are.
It's like Ralph Wiggum. That is so 1991. That is so 2001.
Well, and that's the problem with him with the Pistons is he can't fold into this team.
Yeah, and also a back injury happens. And when you're a professional athlete and your back starts to go, that's kind of the signal like all the shit has hit the fan.
Yep.
Barely played for him. And then on September 10th, 2009, he signs with the Memphis Grizzlies. And it would have worked out, but he didn't want to come off the bench.
Yep.
He was not going to be relegated into that role, but November 30th, 2009, he ends up signing with the 76ers once again. Basically back again to kind of finish his career in the NBA, and you can kind of see that this is the end for him.
Well, they said that, and this is when you see a class organization, they essentially signed him so he could retire as a 76er.
Yeah.
And that's kind of shit where you're just like, yeah, that's good. Because I think with his back injuries and with his stubbornness, he was not going to be a backup point guard. And that was just the end of it for him.
Yeah, he played 2010 in Turkey for like 10 games, but that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, talks were him going to the D-League in 2013, but October 30th, 2013, he just retired.
Yeah.
He got involved in that Ice Cube Big 3 stuff later in 2017, but barely played at all.
Yeah.
Didn't even play at all.
Well, he was a coach player.
Yeah.
I think so. I think they were just kind of putting him in as a name.
Pete Rose without the gambling.
Exactly.
But, yeah, he had his number retired by the 76ers. Number 3, obviously you're going to do that for the guy that brought you to the finals the last time.
Yep.
And had a Hall of Fame career. But overall, this is his stat line, which I find absolutely fascinating for a point guard. The 26.7 points a game, 6.2 assists, 2.2 steals, 1-time MVP, 11-time All-Star, 2-time All-Star Game MVP, 3-time NBA First Team, 3-time NBA Second Team, Rookie of the Year, 4 scoring titles, 3 steals leads for the season, and probably the best point guard of his era.
Yep, and definitely a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Had some off-court troubles.
But, you want to get into those?
Sure. I mean, we'll touch on it a little bit. He got pulled over one time with a gun and some weed, and I don't even think it was his. I think it was his buddy's, and he ended up getting busted for that. That was back when he was early in his 76er career.
Yeah, it was relatively early. It's like that Bill Burr bit, like, you need a fall guy, you goddamn athletes.
Oh, shit. And then he had some domestic stuff with his wife.
That was pretty crazy.
That was pretty crazy. And then just, living that life. He tried to release a rap album that had a lot of criticism, and he ended up never releasing it.
Yeah, I think every NBA player of that era tried.
Yep.
And I remember speech groups and stuff were so anti this album for what he was talking about, but he was a revolutionary figure. He was one of the first guys to have cornrows in the NBA, tatted up.
They say the NBA dress code came along because of him, because so many guys were imitating his hip hop style, because before it wasn't as prevalent, but that was him. That's how he grew up. That was him just culturally as a person. Exactly.
And he took the league by storm and had an incredible career.
Hey everybody, this is just a stock message at the end of every episode. We hope you enjoyed whatever athlete and or team that episode was about. Just want to say, give us a quick follow on all social media. We have a YouTube channel, the Sports Experience Podcast, and we're on Instagram, DiTolla Dominic, and myself, C. Quinn Comedy. So give us a follow all around. We're always recording right here at Engle Studio. Thank you all very much.